Okay, Cyberpunk's out. Well, not out yet. But I mean, by the time you probably watch this, it'll have been out. Obviously, a lot of guys got their review copies and what have you, and it's some really questionable things that's actually taking place that I'm hearing through the grapevine with that. But when it comes to Cyberpunk, if not the most anticipated game of the year, some of that's by CD Projekt Red, sort of stoking it up. Some of it's by the fact that it kept getting pushed back over and over and over and over and over, and it's just building more and more anticipation. So they may have worked in their favor. And this is a time of year where a lot of people are looking for something to play. Though the upgraded next gen version is not out yet. You will be playing the PS4 version if you have the PS5, or rather the PS4 Pro version if you have the PS5, and that's it. With that being said, we'll be playing it this week. We'll be playing the entire game. I will not play it at all offline. So follow me over at twitch.tv/YoungRoper59. And as I mentioned, I will be posting all the gameplay, long form clips. I will re-upload those to the YouTube so you can see all of that, because I want those playthroughs to exist. But of course, on Twitch, you can follow me over there and we'll be checking it out. But let's talk Cyberpunk. Because what it's done is it's created this. Obviously, Cyberpunk in itself has its own culture, right? But it really shows a divide, I think, that's happening in gaming right now that not a lot of people talk about. Some people do. I've talked about it plenty of times, and we already know that sometimes it seems as if games journalists, if that's what you want to call them, journalists, are completely out of touch. And quite often they have different viewpoints at the general populace, the general player base. And sometimes they just say things that are flat out stupid. Okay. But this is one interesting thing that we're going to talk about here. And that is, this is covered by CBR. So again, take that for whatever way that you may. But the title is as such: Cyberpunk 2077 developer hasn't finished after nearly 200 hours, and that's a bad thing. Now, on the title alone, we're going to get in what they say, but on the title alone, there's a disconnect there, because I'm not of the opinion that there's a such thing as a game that's too long. Some people actually believe that. I think the shit's weird, okay? But I understand it. I'm one type of gamer. I don't even believe that's a such thing as a game being too long. Now, there can be games that feel like a chore to play, and if those are extended, you feel like, damn, I gotta try to fit. But that's the problem with the gameplay not being intriguing, right? That's not a problem with the length. There's just the length amplifies that if it's something that feels like a chore to play. But a lot of what we're dealing with going into this newer generation is that it's a dopamine thing. People want their quick fix. This is why people ranted and raved about Miles Morales. Somehow, which we're going to talk about later, that ended up being one of the 5 choices for Game of the Year for the Game Awards, and it doesn't even belong on the list because shit, it's a DLC. It's like a 6-hour game, but it's that dopamine, right? It's like the quick fix. They want it with their completion. They want to feel like they're on top of the world for that period of time. And they want to power through it. And this is why those short games, when it comes to these journalists, these short games, these heavy narrative driven games, right? Not like RPGs. I'm talking like heavy, like the Last of Us 2s of the world, the cinematic movies, right? Are so popular because it not only is it short for the most part, which Last of Us 2 wasn't that short, but you have that idea where you're getting carried through the game, right? And then the completion is done, and then you probably won't even touch the game, ever again. But that's it's an interesting thing, because I am of the opinion that it's a bad thing that people are even considering that as a bad thing, that you pay 60 damn bucks for a game, right? You pay 60 bucks for a game and you get more than 200 hours out of it. That to me is awesome, right? I love to hear stuff like that, though I am hearing different things from this 200 hours thing. I'm hearing some folks are saying that they powered through it in like 20. So I don't know. We're going to read this article here in a little bit, but I don't believe that there's ever a such thing as a game that's too long. I don't. I now, if you are a guy that wants a quick fix, right? I know some people are like, well, I got jobs. Well, shit, we all got jobs. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean anything. Hell, I grew up in an era where there were games that you just flat out didn't beat. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. But I understand that there's that sector of gamers that want that quick fix, the urinalist, so they can review it, be done with it, move on to the next game. But let's read this. 2077 Cyberpunk will release in a few days, finally ending years of anticipation for gamers hungry to get their hands on the next ambitious RPG from CD Projekt Red. However, over the years, information regarding the game's development cycle has come out, and not all of it is good. The road to Cyberpunk 2077 has been fraught with controversies on both development and public relations end, and the newest one comes from an unlikely place. CD Projekt Red's quality assurance test lead, Lucas Babio, revealed that he has a whopping 174 hours into Cyberpunk 2077 and still hasn't yet to roll credits. Babiel has stated that he's been taking his time with the game, using stealth where possible and exploring each nook and cranny of the game. So he's one of those slow pacer. He's not trying to like power through it anyway. So that makes sense as to considering that why there's such a discrepancy and some people being able to finish it in a far shorter period of the time. So he's going through everything, it seems to explore every single aspect of this game, using stealth even where possible, and it's obviously going to slow the playthrough. And he says, still, even if this is a slower playthrough of the game, the fact that the game is stretching close, if not longer than 200 hours, is ridiculous. All right, I want to, first of all, let's put Ethan Parker is the name of the person that wrote this. I don't want y'all tweeting him and calling him crazy or anything like that. I just want to put perspective that this is his perspective here. The video game length debate has been a point of contention for gamers for a long time. Everyone wants to have a good bang for their buck when making an investment, especially in video games. With the gaming industry slowly shifting the average AAA price to $70, people want to make sure the game is worth the cost of entry and will last them a good amount of time. Wanting value out of what you buy isn't an unreasonable request. Paying a significant amount of money out of pocket for entertainment is a luxury, and as such, you should feel fulfilled with your purchase. Okay, the problem is that many feel there is such thing as too long. Disagree. I disagree with the idea that there's a such thing as too long. But yes, he's correct in the fact that some do feel that there is a such thing as too long. When it comes to a video games campaign, most people have full-time jobs. I just don't understand what that has to do with anything. Like, who's to say that you have to beat it? Why do you have to beat it in a week? Like, I never understood this argument for that. Like, well, people have jobs. Okay. We all got jobs. Everybody has something that they do aside from play video games, unless you're a bum. And unless your job is to play video games. But that's most gamers. Like that's not even a thing worth mentioning, because that's most gamers. Most gamers have things that they are obligated to deal with, handle, be it their family, be it their jobs, that are outside of gaming. This is why a lot of people consider it a form of escapism. How is that even a talking point worth mentioning, though? Again, unless it's just a dopamine thing where it's like you want to beat it as quickly as possible. So what? You have a full-time job. Who's to say that you have to beat it in a couple of days? Why can't you beat it in a few months? Like, what's the crime there? I don't understand. That's like most people, but most adult gamers have jobs. Well, I mean, maybe not since this stupid ass government reaction to the pandemic. That's a whole nother thing where they're illegally. Well, I don't want to say illegally. Well, I mean, if you consider it in like the actual libertarian sense, yeah, it's illegal what they are doing. It's goddamn crime what they are doing. But he says most people have full-time jobs and or school schedules to adhere to, making it difficult or impossible to spend hundreds of hours on a single time. I just don't understand. I don't understand that logic. And more importantly, I don't understand why a game has to cater to the busiest person. You know what I'm saying? And again, I don't understand the argument in the first place because most people have jobs anyway that play games, and some people game more casually, right? I get that, but why? And that's more so what I wanted to speak about is the divide between the casual gamer and what people would consider the more hardcore gamer. And it seems that a lot of folks, and unfortunately, we see what happened with Avengers, for example, catering to the casual gamer is not necessarily a recipe for success. And quite often, it's a recipe for disaster. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can actually screw your game up by having this approach that you're trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator. That doesn't necessarily make a good game just because you're trying to cater to the folks that only has an hour to play at a time or something like that. And when you're talking about generally RPGs anyway, that's not something that I would imagine that you would focus on anyway. But I don't believe let's continue real quick though. I don't believe this whole too long thing. Where there's also so much else out there to play. As a result, many players will abandon an expensive game before the end credit. Okay. What's the problem? Like, what's the problem? Like I said, I talk about how all the time, how when Vector Man, I talked about both the difficulty, Vector Man 2, difficulty. I never beat that game as a youngster. It's something that I would love to play again as an adult, but I never beat that game. That was like a common thing when I was growing up in like the Sega Genesis era, and Super Nintendo, right? Like, people had games that they never beat. That was like a common thing. Those platformers and stuff, like people had games that they never ever completed. Like that was just like a thing that always people had a stack of games that they never completed. Sonic 2, like I don't think I ever beat that when I was a youngster. You know, like it's not an uncommon thing, well, it used to not be, to not complete a game. Like that was like, and it's not because it sucked. Sometimes it was too hard. But the difference, I think, between this generation and the previous generations, like my generation coming up, was that we didn't cry to the developers that the game was too hard. I'm talking about you, Avengers. I'm talking about, I want to be clear. I'm not even taking sneak dissing right here. I'm taking shots. I'm talking about you, Avengers. Avengers community. Crying and shit because you don't know what you're doing with Hulk. I'm talking about you. See, we didn't do that back when I was coming. I hate to be that guy. I'm only 30 years old, right? I hate to be that guy that's sitting there talking about, well, back in my day. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, we didn't cry to the developers because the game was too hard. Like, that's not what we did, right? We didn't cry to we live in this age now where fools sitting there mad because Demon Souls talking about these damn games urinalists talking about, hey, we need an easy mode for Demon Souls. Man, y'all need to get the hell up out of here. Like, what is it with everybody feeling as if they are obligated to have to complete something? And that's the thing about the good games and the bad games, because I'm not saying that games that you can complete in a shorter period of time suck. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, however, is that not every single game has to keep in mind the person that is a very, very casual gamer who only plays an hour at a time. Not every game has to be created with that person in mind. Of course, expectations in this regard vary by genre. While major RPGs are expected to be massive, AAA shooters like Call of Duty have far shorter campaigns and low completion statistics because nobody's playing Call of Duty for the damn campaign anymore. Those days are done, man. Like, there may be 3 people playing the campaign. I'm sorry. I know there's going to be some people in the chat. Well, I play the campaign. Most people that play COD don't play a goddamn campaign. I don't remember the last time I touched the campaign not even on the COD that I played like to the ground, which I played the most, was Black Ops 2. Did that damn thing even have a fucking campaign? I have no idea because I didn't touch it. Who the hell plays COD for the campaign aside from maybe 3 people? It's a game that is centered around the multiplayer competitive aspect. That's what the game is. That's why the campaign is short, but the developers know that, because it's like, why put all of this effort in a mode that ain't nobody gonna play but 3 people? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe 2, okay, maybe 4. Maybe 4 people will actually play the campaign to COD. Maybe 4 of y'all, okay? I'll give you a little more. Still, Respawn's Titanfall 2 drew the ire of many gamers because it's a 5-hour campaign. Despite the campaign's strength and the game's robust multiplayer, EA's release strategy and negative word of mouth regarding its short but sweet campaign killed the game before it had a chance. What? All right, I'm not a Titanfall guy. I would love to verify that because this is my first time ever hearing that. I never heard anybody, I'm being dead serious. I've never heard anybody say that Titanfall 2 was a failure because the campaign was short. I've never heard anybody say that. I could be wrong. I'm not a Titanfall player, but this is the first time that I've heard that. Perhaps no franchise encapsulates the too long for its own good mantra quite like the Assassin's Creed. Even though Ubisoft has pumped the brakes on making Assassin's Creed an annual series, it's often ridiculed bloat of ceaseless, samey side quests and loot grinds that have become point of contention for many gamers. But you see, that's not a problem with the link though, right? That's not a problem with the link. That's a problem with the gameplay. Like, you know, obviously you don't want to make it mundane, right? It's one thing to make it long, and then like it's a fraud long. It's like you're doing the same thing over and over and over, right? That's a kind of, I get it. But that's not a problem with the link. That's a gameplay issue, right? Though it arguably started earlier, Assassin's Creed Unity is where this really became noticeable, as simply looking at its map instills a sense of dread over a seemingly infinite amount of repetitive objectives and collectibles. I thought, I don't know. I thought Unity was the one that people liked. While Assassin's Creed Valhalla promised to shake things up, player have found that it's largely the same. Like, Am I in another dimension? No, Unity. Oh, so Unity was the one that people hated. Okay, all right. So Unity was the one that people hated, but they hated it. All right. Okay. So Unity was the one that folks hated. All right, I got that. I haven't touched Assassin's Creed like in forever. By the way, this is why I have Valhalla. I have Valhalla like right there. I'm like looking at it, and I haven't even touched the damn thing. Matter of fact, hold up. Yeah, I got this bad boy right here. I haven't even touched it. It ain't even open. It still got the packaging on it. So yeah. Shorter games can be total drags that leave a bitter taste in your mouth. Oh man, yes, I do remember that. Okay, that's the one I agree with. The Order 1886. That one I remember. While a short length isn't an issue when the game is fun and replayable, I disagree though. It can be fun, and I think I had fun with Miles Morales Spider-Man, and the shit was still too short. A game being long doesn't automatically make it good. That I agree. And the opposite is also true. I agree with that too. Although Cyberpunk 2077 is shaping up to be one of the most ambitious and detailed Western RPGs we've ever seen, it's worth being cautious going into it. Ultimately, gamers need to decide for themselves if it's worth to spend their money on something they may not see through the end credits, which, okay, I agree with. All right, this isn't as bad as what I thought. I still disagree with this point of, and that's my point of contention, if there is to be one, this whole idea that there's a such thing as a game that's too long. I think we're starting to conflate ideas, right? I think we're conflating ideas because if the game is fun, if it has new elements to it like that, make it where you're not out. Look, it's going to be definitely in RPGs. There's going to be things that you're going to do that you did before, right? That is an inevitable thing. But if it has enough variation, right? Again, this is another part where Avengers, for example, suffers. If it has enough variations, that can be fine, right? This whole idea that you never either ever complete it or it may take you a while to complete it. If there's a lot more variety in the different things that you're doing within the game. But that's not an issue with the length. the issue is with the gameplay, right? But games urinalists want short games. They love short games. They're gonna take preferred. They're gonna prefer short games as they are it's a quick dopamine fix. It's not just urinalists though. It's not games urinalists as well. It's a generation of folks who definitely will live in a streaming era where definitely variety streamers. They want to be able to play a game, beat the game, move on to the next game with their crowd. Like that's the sort of era that we live in. And this is why accessibility is the obsession with everybody. Seems to be, well, I don't want to say everybody. I want to see games journalists focus on this whole accessibility thing where they think that trying to you make a game for the lowest common denominator, and you think that is going to equal success, good game. See Avengers, and where they failed at that aspect as well, though it's not anything exclusive to Avengers. It's just make a good game. You know what I'm saying? You just make a good game. If it's long, it's long, but just make a good, decent game instead of trying to make this whole master of none type of thing where you are appealing to everybody in this wide ass demographic, or the most casual fucking gamer that you possibly can cater to. This whole myth that it's too long. If you do other things, takes you 200 plus hours, to me, that is an awesome thing. If it's fun, if the gameplay is fun, if there's a lot of different things that you can do, it being 200 plus hour is awesome. That is a thing that I love, right? And once I give my full review, I will for sure be highlighting that. Now, if it's trash though, and it or something like that, then if it's long, then that's not a problem with the length. That's a problem with the gameplay, and we'll dock it as such. But I'm of the opinion that there ain't no such thing as a game that's too long, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys will disagree with me, and you'll let me know that in the comment section.